we'll start the ball rolling with an overview of Go modules, packages, and source code files. Then we'll roll our sleeves up and get our hands on. We'll start out by creating a workspace and initializing a Go module. And then we'll start writing our first program. And it's okay if some of this is jargon. We're about to demystify it. Anyway, as we're writing that code, we'll dip into the notion of functions. We'll circle back to our code and import a package that lets us print text to the screen. We'll see how to run, build, and install the fully compiled app. And then we'll wrap the module with configuring VS Code for Go. Now, it might look a bit complex, but believe me, it is not. There's basically three things: writing the code, building it as an app and running it, and then configuring VS Code. And you know what? The VS Code bit's totally optional. You don't have to, and you can totally follow the course without it. But I recommend you do, because if you're getting serious about Go, it's probably the most popular tool available, and it's free. But you know what? Talk is cheap. Let's crack on. Okay, so a bit of housekeeping before we crack on. First up, a version check. Everything we're going to do is going to work fine in Go version 1.14 and newer. You know what? It should even work as far back as 1.11. You just need the Go 11 module variable set to on for anything before 1.14. And the other thing you need to know is the structure of Go packages and modules. So a Go application consists of one or more source code files. All files relating to a particular program get grouped into a package, and packages get grouped into modules. Which I know is a ton of jargon, so let's look at it from the inside out and then from the outside in. From the inside out, you write your app as a bunch of source code files that live in the same folder on your computer. Well, in Go, we call that folder and source code a package. And that means when you compile the app, you're actually compiling the entire package. So, all the source code files in that directory. Now, we'll see it in just a second, but because all these different files are part of the same application package, then variables and functions and stuff that are in them are accessible to all the other files in the package. Anyway, a module is then a set of related packages that you release together. Magic, but in the hands-on, we'll be doing it the other way, from the outside in. So we'll create the module first, then we'll create the packages, and finally the source code files. So in a second, you'll use the go mod init command to initialize a new Go module in an empty directory. Then you'll create a subfolder for your first package, and finally you'll start writing code. Now, I totally get that it can look a bit complex and maybe even a bit daunting if you're new to this, but I promise you, you'll set this stuff up once, and for the rest of the course, you'll just be coding and barely even know that the package and module stuff's even there. But you know what? I literally said talk is cheap, and I'm still talking. So let's go and get our hands on. Alright then, we're about to create and initialize a Go module, and then write some source code for our first package. So the first thing you need is an empty folder somewhere on your computer. I don't know, it's probably easiest to create a folder called Go in your home directory, but you don't have to. I mean, I'm down in the depths of some arcane folder structure that I've been using for years from our Pluralsight courses. So feel free to choose anywhere. It just needs to be an empty folder on your machine that you'll use to store all the programs we'll write. Well, once you've got that, you need to initialize it as a Go module. So, making sure you're in that module folder you just created, run the go mod init command like this. Now then, this bit here can pretty much be whatever you want. But, if you plan on ever publishing the code in the module, then it's gotta be a path to the repository where you'll eventually host the code. So, for me, the code for this course is hosted on GitHub in this repo. And look, if you're unsure about this, or you don't think there is a cat in hell's chance of you ever publishing this code, which there probably isn't. I mean, it is just learning code from the course, then maybe just use your name or something like this. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so that's created this go.mod file here in the root of your module folder. And if we look at it, yeah, we can see it lists the name or the path to the module, and then this is the version of Go that created it. Now the whole idea of modules is they're how Go tracks dependencies and versions. So, as you add dependencies to your apps, they'll appear in here with the required versions and the likes. But right now, that's your Go module initialized, and we're ready to write some code. Remember we said modules contain packages, and packages contain source code files. Well, we've got our module, so let's create a new folder inside of it for the Hello World package. And see how the name of the folder is the name of the package. Well, any code you write in this folder is going to be part of that Hello World package. Well, for now I'm going to write the code in VI. If you're on Windows, I recommend you probably go with Notepad. And for sure, we're going to get more professional in a second. I just want the first program we write to be the simplest thing in the world with no fancy tools distracting us from what's actually going on. Anyway, I'm calling the file hello.go. Right, the first thing every Go program needs is a package declaration. Now, calling a package main makes it special. This tells Go to compile this code that we're going to write as an application and not a shared library. So actually, an application is something that maybe you would double click to run and it does something, whereas a shared library generally only runs when another application calls it. Anyway, look, next up we want a function. And we're calling this one funcMain. Be careful how you pronounce that. But funcMain special, just like package main. Because at runtime, so when we eventually run this as an application, the first thing that'll run will be funcMain inside of package main. And sometimes we call this combo the application's entry point. Basically, without these two, the application won't run. Now, you know what? Functions are pretty much at the center of everything you're going to do with Go. So I want to give you a quick heads up on function basics before we go any further. Right then, functions are at the heart of modularizing your code, and pretty much all the code you'll ever write in Go is going to be inside a function. Like, just about every Go program has loads of functions. In fact, it's pretty much one function per, well, function, or maybe feature. Like, if your program takes some input from a user, maybe it performs a conversion on that input and then returns the converted output to the user, you're probably looking at 3 functions. So one for each feature or function that the program executes. Now, we'll see it as we go, but functions and packages are the 2 major ways that we modularize and reuse code in Go. Now, at a high level, every function starts with the func keyword followed by a name. And for the most part, we can name them anything we want. That is, except for main, which we just said is special. But I highly recommend you give your functions meaningful names. Well, we can pass and return values to a function in parentheses, and then the actual code of it goes in between curly braces. And again, I'm really sorry about this, but if it's jargon right now, honestly it's fine. We'll be doing it really soon. But that's the basics of functions. But you know what? For our simple app, we're only interested in this main function here. So we already said that funcMain is special. It's the first block of code that'll execute in any Go application. So we call it the entry point. And in fact, actually, if you're writing a shared library and not an executable, then it doesn't get a main function. But we are writing an executable, so funcMain is our entry point. And it's special again because it doesn't take any arguments and it doesn't return any values. Well, actually, you know what? When funcMain exits, the entire program exits and it returns an exit code, which of course follows the standard practice of 0 indicating success of the application and a non-zero code indicating some kind of error. But for us right now, that's the very basics of Go functions and func main. But you know what? Right now our function's empty, so let's go and add some code. Okay, the stuff we've got so far is pretty much the structure of a Go program. All that's missing is the actual program itself. Well, as this is our Hello World package, we're going to be printing some text to the screen. And we do this in Go with the print line function from the funct or the FMT package. So up at the top here, outside of our function, we need to import the funct package. Now, well, actually two things. Feel free to pronounce this however you want. Funct, FMT, even format, everyone knows what you mean. But the main thing to learn is we're importing a package of functions to be able to use them in our app. So to be clear, funct here is a package in the standard Go library that gets installed in your machine when you install Go. And like any package, it is a collection of functions. In fact, give me a second here. Okay, yeah, this is the official funct package hosted on GitHub. And then we can see if I highlight here, the print line function. So, by importing this into our package, we'll be able to call on this print line function here. So, I tell you what, let's jump back to our function and we'll add this line here. And all it's saying is, from that funct package that we just imported, use this print line function which we just saw to print this text to the screen. And that's our first program right there. Make sure you save it and we're ready to see it run. Okay, so there's a few ways that we can run our app. We can just run it, we can build it, or we can install it. And they're all dead simple, so we'll do them all. Now, probably the one you'll do most is just run it. So in a terminal, making sure we're in a directory where the app is, and as long as you've got Go installed, just go run, and then the name of the file. And there we go. Hello, Pluralsight. And if that's your first Go program, seriously, congratulations. Now what happened there was that Go compiled the app into a temp directory somewhere. It ran it, and then it cleaned up. And honestly, you'll do this a lot, especially while you're developing and testing your apps. But when your programs are ready to ship, you'll either build them or install them. So Go build here takes the same file name. Or, if you're in your packages directory, you can just go with Go build on its own, or you can add a period, and it'll compile the app as a binary executable file for your operating system that you can just run. So, you know what, this time I'll run it without the name of the file because I'm in its directory. Now if we list the directory, see how we've got a new file called Hello World. Well, that's a compiled application ready to run. Oh, and it's called Hello World because we're in the package folder called Hello World. So maybe if we had multiple source code files here making up the app and we ran the build command, they'd all get compiled into an executable binary with the name of the package. Well, I'll tell you what, if we run that executable, there we go again, Hello Pluralsight. In fact, you know what? You can even run it from Finder or Windows Explorer like a normal app, because it is. And like I think I said, this is useful for building apps that you're ready to ship to your customers. Well, the final thing we mentioned was Go install, and this does the same as Go build, only it places the compiled binary in a folder called go/bin in your home directory. So I should have a file here, which I do, and like we said, it's called Hello World in the go/bin folder of my profile. Now you can change the location where it drops the file by setting the go bin and the go path variables. I'm showing the commands here, but actually I'm cool with the default location. And seriously, that's our first program working and compiled as a self-executing application. Now, yeah, go on then. I want to just clarify something in case you're new to coding. When I say compile, I mean Go taking the programs that we write, so our source code files, and building them into a machine code app that'll run like we just showed. Okay, well, everything we've done so far is well and good, but I'd say probably all of you are going to write and run your code in an integrated development environment like Visual Studio Code. Yeah, other IDEs do exist, and you can totally follow the course with other environments. But I'll be rocking for the rest of the course with VS Code, and unless you've got a reason not to, do you know what? I recommend you probably do as well. Right then, let's see how to get VS Code and how to configure it for Go. Now, a couple of things right off the bat. VS Code's just a tool to help us with Go, so I'm not going to dwell on it. We'll get it configured and we'll crack on with the course. The other thing, what I'm about to show you might change slightly in the future, and there's not a lot I can do about that. But for the most part, any changes will be minor, and what you see here is still going to apply and help you configure VS Code. Alright then, VS Code is a free IDE, that's Integrated Development Environment. And do you know what, the download and install is so simple, I'm not even going to show you. Just download the version for your OS and crack on with the installer. When you're done with that, fire it up. Well, looks pretty professional, yeah? But all we've got right now is a framework. First order of business is to install the Go extension. So, I'll hit the extensions icon here and type in Go at the top. This is the one we want, so we'll install it. And if it recommends any updates or tools, install them. And then, when that's done, I think the last thing to do is add a workspace over here. And that's just the root folder of the module you created before. Oh, yeah, you might be asked to trust the workspace and maybe install additional tools like Go Please or whatever. I'm going to say yes. This might take a second as well. But when it's done, this is your module with the Hello World package and then your source code file. In fact, see how the code's coloured? That's because the Go extension recognised this as a Go program. Magic! Well, that's VS Code ready to go. Time, I think, for a quick recap before we crack on digging deeper. Magic, you've just written a Go program. So you initialized a brand new Go module. And we've not really got into modules yet, but I'd say for now, they're Go's built-in dependency tracking system. But once they're installed, they'll pretty much just sit in the background for most of the stuff we'll do. Anyway, within that module, we created a package called Hello World, and we wrote a program. So, as we can see, source code belongs to packages, and packages belong to modules, and it'll sync in later if it hasn't already. But looking at our code, we started by saying every Go program that we want to compile as an executable application needs a package main and a func main. These are what we call the application's entry point, and therefore the first bits of code to run when the program starts. This line here imports the func package and makes all of its functions available to our code, so that down here in the main function, we can call on the printline function from the func package and use it to display text to the screen. With the code all written, we then use the go run command to run the app, and we said that's probably how you're going to test your code while you're developing it. And I'm sure we'll see it later, but if we make typos or whatever, they'll get flagged and we'll have an opportunity to fix them. Anyway, when you're happy with your program and you think it's ready to ship, go build is the command that you'll need. This compiles your code into a binary executable that runs on its own on other computers without the need for the Go compiler. And I think that was pretty much it. So with these basics ticked off, let's start digging deep